these comments and stuff like that are so fun to read because they really make us think and they challenge and they push us. But boy, I'd love to know this person's situation, right?
Right, exactly. Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Spotlight, our monthly deep dive into a financial concept, all designed to help you take your next wise step in your financial life. My name's Mike Bernard. I'm your host, and with me in the KFG studio, a colleague of mine for a long time, financial planner, Ben deBock. Ben, welcome to the studio again. Ben's been a guest on the Wise Money Show a few times, so it might be a familiar voice to you guys, but Ben's one of my favorite people in the world and incredible financial planner. Jack of all trades, sort of a contractor type, helping with all sorts of situations in the 6 areas of financial planning, but a specialist in, I would say, investment planning, tax planning, retirement planning, and fused in all of that, you've found this niche in Social Security, something that most people are irritated with and frustrated with. You like it.
I do. It's a fascinating world. I think that we've taken this idea and kind of convoluted it over the years, ever since it came out, and it has to be unwound and understood, and it's really super individualized, but that's what makes it fun. It's a puzzle for everybody.
All right, so we're on the heels of the new tax laws. Just quick hot take: should they tax Social Security, Ben? What's your opinion on that?
Boy, I do not think so. I think that that's one of the most frustrating things that we have. Feels like double taxation, and it's such an issue, and it's becoming a larger issue for those who are retiring. Is how much of their Social Security gets dragged into their tax picture. I don't love it, but unfortunately, it's going to take both sides of Congress coming together and really playing nice. And I'm not seeing that happen.
I'm not seeing that happen either. I get on my soapbox here because it is after-tax money that we pay into Social Security through FICA. That's not a deduction for us. And then they tax it, and the formula for the taxation hasn't changed in 40 years. Unbelievable. All right, let me have another hot take. We hear financial advisors on the radio or in different mediums on YouTube and these other places that say, yeah, you should draw Social Security early. Draw it as early as you can. And my take on that is, and they say that to the masses, that's the broad advice. My take on that is they are saying that because that's what you want to hear. And therefore, so they're saying that in a disingenuous way. What's your take on that? Because I would love it if the best idea for everyone was to take it immediately, because that is emotionally what we all want to do.
Absolutely. It feels good. It feels like the right answer to be able to tell people, get your money back as early as possible. And don't worry about kind of these people trying to get you to wait. They're trying to get you to lose out on what you could have, get back that's yours. And I would say, there is so much more that goes into this. This right here, this decision touches on your family, your income, your your health, all of these different components that come in together that really are super individualized. So there's a lot of different layers to this. We can unpack some of those, but this is really where you want to say, hey, my situation is not like the masses. I'm very individualized. You're very individualized. Let's go figure out that answer for you.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we can't know this answer unless you can tell me exactly how long you're going to live.
Right.
And that's the one thing that I don't recommend making that decision. Like that's one that we just have to say, hey, that's a variable we don't know.
Right. So here's the thing. When I asked Ben, said, hey, we're doing this monthly series. Why don't you come into the studio and let's have some fun and talk about it? I knew I was going to talk about Social Security. And, there's 6 areas to your financial life. The Wise Money Show, this entire channel is about those 6 areas and how they need to be fused together for you to make great financial decisions. So we do a lot of content on Social Security. We give a lot of advice on Social Security, individualized advice. And so anyway, I went through the comments from you on our content on Social Security. And here's what I was looking for. Questions, the most common questions about Social Security and claiming Social Security. And that's what we're going to talk about with Ben. And here's what I found. I didn't find a lot of questions. I found a whole bunch of opinions, and I thought that was fun. And so I'm going to set the record straight, and we're going to go through the most common frustrations or gripes or issues with Social Security, specifically delaying Social Security. And I want to just state this before we get into it. We are not recommending everyone should delay Social Security. I actually don't recommend that very, very frequently. It's individualized, like you said, Ben. So the point is, it's not one size fits all. And between the fact of Social Security and your emotions wanting you to make a decision, between that gap, you've got to do some objective, individualized planning, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life and specifically your retirement plan to make the best choice for you.
100%.
We'll probably say that again here in the next few minutes, but it's an individualized choice. Now, back to the show. Yeah, there were a lot. I would say the most common frustration around Social Security was a debate between fans of the show and listeners saying, if I delay, I got to spend down my own money first, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to delay and draw my own assets down because if I pass away, my Social Security isn't left to my heirs. And then there was even a comment that I thought was very, very interesting and I think insightful when financial advisors typically talk about that. Well, if you delay, it's an 8% rate of return. They often overlook the potential growth that you could have on the money that you leave in there and your own asset. So, Ben, how would you wade into that common gripe or concern with delaying Social Security?
Yeah, great question. The way that we typically do it when I'm serving folks for financial planning is we try to take a very agnostic, like, hey, I want what's best for you, and that doesn't mean I come in with any sort of presuppositions as to when we should turn this on. Let's let the statistics inform us. My former role was teaching statistics, and so I love taking a look and saying, hey, what does the long-term trajectory of this actually show for when do you get the most from your assets mixed with Social Security? What does that look like for age? Part of this too is thinking, what's your personal situation like? What's your marital status, right? Yeah. And has your spouse worked? And if so, what's their Social Security picture? Because this actually often is not just one person's Social Security choice, it's two, and you're married and they're married together as well, right? Yeah. Like your decisions can impact your surviving spouse if they live longer than you. And that's a huge part of that decision that can be super emotional. And also, I think can be really tying in care with that choice there. So I think part of that is, hey, what's going to grow more over time? Yes, that's part of it. Look at the math, look at what actually happens, but you have to also keep in mind that there are spending issues, income issues, health issues, all these different things, penalties for potentially, you may have to hand some of your Social Security back if you take it too early and you've got income coming in from other places.
Don't want to do that. We recently had a case where some new folks came in, and actually, they had decided we're going to delay. We're going to delay until 70, and they had already made that decision. And they didn't first come in to see us until 68. And we looked and said they were married. And okay, fine. If you want to delay, that's fine. But spouse, you have to draw right now, because what made the most sense for her was to collect half of her husband's. That was going to be the higher amount. Well, she can't turn that on until he turns his on, but half of what number? And this is a mistake a lot of people make. If you're drawing a spousal benefit, it's half of their full retirement age amount, which right now is 67.
That's right.
So if he's delaying until 70, then you're only going to get half of what he would have gotten at 67. So she should have not delayed. She should have turned hers on immediately so that she could start collecting her own, and then it would switch to this other benefit. So yeah, there are times not to delay. Ben, I want to double click on the point of most financial advisors. They do a break-even analysis, and they don't factor in the lost potential growth if I draw down my assets early while delaying Social Security. We actually do factor that in. I don't know if you want to speak to that or I thought it was a great point, because I actually don't think most financial advisors do that.
Yeah. You have to be able to take a look at that drawdown, because there's a lot to that. It depends on what type of accounts you're drawing down, which we care a lot about, because if you're drawing down an IRA versus a Roth IRA, those have very different tax ramifications in the long term as well. And we may actually want to draw down that IRA, that account, so that our tax picture for the rest of our life, we talked about taxation of Social Security earlier. If we look at those pieces, maybe that's actually the best move, so you keep more of your Social Security later on. and it's a higher number. And you also have to think on the flip side, which is, hey, if I'm drawing this down and letting my accounts grow over time, hey, one of those comes with a quasi guarantee. I say quasi because it's the government, so we're saying it's an 8% raise, but we're assuming that's going to be true. Your investments, I haven't met any investment professionals who are promising you a guaranteed 8% return.
Right.
And if they are, you should probably really double check all the fine print.
I had actually run away from them.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, so well, you mentioned the Roth versus IRA. I don't know. Again, you were advocating for this is a very individualized choice. I completely agree. It has to do with your health, your marital status, whether you're a widow, all that sort of stuff. However, if your assets are all in Roth, I'd have a hard time saying you should delay Social Security because I want the dollars in the Roth to be growing tax free for as long as possible.
Absolutely. And here's the part that we also have to look individualized though is, okay, what's your income need, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I would probably tend to agree with you there. However, if your income needs are too high or if Social Security isn't going to be enough of a part of that, and that other component, are you still working at this time? And so losing or penalizing Social Security, man, there's like 17 inputs for this decision, all to come out to one output. And we have to look at each of those as they go into every person's personal scenario. So.
That's why we love financial planning, because you've got to consider estate planning. What happens if you have short life expectancy or live a very long time? What's your tax picture look like? What's your investment strategy? What do those look like? So I mentioned we factor in the potential lost growth of investment dollars if you're pulling dollars out of your portfolio to delay Social Security. We have our 5-factor retirement plan. I talk about that all the time. I was just meeting with someone. Actually, I'm going to meet with them this week where I showed, hey, if you delay Social Security until your full retirement age, they plan to retire at 62, or you draw right away. And we built both scenarios with all of their assets in full 5-factor retirement plan analysis, and we projected out. And for them, if they live out until around 90, then there definitely is a break even, and then it's a better decision for them to delay. But it's not an enormous change in their specific situation. So my guidance is going to be, guys, you can draw early if you want, right away. You can delay. I think both options have merit in their specific situation. But we've certainly run analysis doing that side by side where it's very clear mathematically. The statistics, like you said, really point to one.
And one thing there, I think that there's a lot of this generation, especially as folks are starting to get into their 50s, 60s, and so on, that are saying, well, my family has only historically lived to approximately this age, right? Yep. And so that's what my plans are going to be. But I'm going to tell you, my grandfather's generation, the reason that pensions basically aren't a thing anymore for most folks is because they all outlived what people projected.
What the actuaries projected.
Yeah, what the actuaries projected. And so all these pensions were struggling because my grandpa lived to be 94 years old, and he lived that long when they were projecting that he would only draw a pension until about his mid-70s.
Yeah.
Right? And so that same thing is going to come into play here where, you may not think you're going to live that much longer. And so this strategy has its pros and cons of both, where it's that crossover point. But I would encourage people to take an active view of what if that length of time is much longer, and maybe even view that with a higher probability than you think.
Yeah, and that is the second most common comment on the content and videos that we've created about Social Security is, you're telling me a break-even's out there late 70s or early 80s. So many people in my family have passed away well before them. You've got to be crazy to think that I would delay. And I'm working with people right now where I remember I met with them recently. I remember when I said, hey, we want your retirement dollars to last until age 90. And he said, there's no way. Right now, they are, and they've acknowledged it, they are still alive past the time that they assured me that they would have passed away.
Right.
And so you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. So you've got to decide, do you want to play that super, more conservative route? Your financial advisor shouldn't be so conservative that you're not having any fun. But the phrase that I say is, our analysis, our projection It needs to be in the ballpark. If it's not in the ballpark of reality, then it's not worth anything. It's got to be in the ballpark. But once we're in that ballpark, I'd like to be just a touch conservative in my view on it. Anything you'd add to that, Ben, about break even and not long life expectancy?
No, I think that's exactly right. We want to make sure that we're basically planning for a little bit extra, right? Like leaning towards the side of maybe you'll live a little longer than you think, maybe you'll spend a little more than you think, maybe things will be a little more expensive than you think. And if we're kind of planning that way, we're putting up a little a hedge of protection in a sense for your plan and making sure we're giving you good feedback for those what ifs.
Yeah. And yet you mentioned this individualized choice when you should draw your Social Security. And one of those primary factors that you're going to consider, not as an afterthought, but as a primary consideration, is your health. Mm-hmm. And if your health has some question marks to it, you're going to draw Social Security. It's going to make the most sense to draw Social Security as soon as you reasonably can. Now that gets to the third. And the third comment here is not, I would say it's not pervasive in the comment section of our Social Security content. I found a few of them, but we do get this question a decent amount of time. And that is the question of, and this was stated as a comment. I'll state it as a comment. The day I turned 62, I started collecting Social Security. I then invested all of my Social Security checks, and now 5 years later, I'm set for life. The government wants you to wait until 70 years old because they don't think you're going to live that long. I turned it on immediately. I invested it, and I was set for life. Mathematically, I'm not sure how that's possible. So we get this question a lot. Should I turn it on immediately and just invest the dollars?
Yeah.
You've got to live on something. If you're going to turn it on and invest all of it, I love that.
Yeah,
but what are you going to live off of?
Exactly. I would love to meet this person, and you and I were discussing before the show, like these comments and stuff like that are so fun to read because they really make us think and they challenge and they push us. But boy, I'd love to know this person's situation, right?
Right, exactly. There's got to be more to the story.
Yeah, there's not many people who, when they draw Social Security, are just saying, "Hey, I'm going to go invest that." Like usually, it's a stream of income, so it's not something that you turn around and go and are able to grow. It's something, hey, I went and bought groceries and put gas in the car and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's a scenario that we would love to know that individualized picture to see why you made that decision.
Because my hunch is there's got to be a pension or some other source of non-earned income. Because if there's earned income, because if you're going to collect your Social Security early, and there's a case that I know you'll remember if I mention the name, not going to, it's confidential, where they came in and their plan was, I'm going to, at 62, I'm going to shift to part-time, and I'll probably make around 40 grand, but I'm going to turn my Social Security on then and it will all work out. Well, if you're 62, if you're not yet your full retirement age, there's a limit on how much you can earn paycheck money and not have your Social Security be penalized. And so if you're going back to this comment, if you're going to draw at 62 and invest all your Social Security, you've got to live on something. And if you're living on earned income, because you're still going to work, then your Social Security is going to be penalized, potentially penalized to zero. And that would sort of negate, there'd be nothing to invest there. And so there's got to be more to the story, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Pension or something like that.
Yeah, it's the individualized portion, and that's where we recommend, hey, we need to work with you to know what's your health, your income, your savings, your spending, what's your family picture, what's your marital status. I've got one gentleman who's waiting till 70 to take his Social Security, primarily because he wants, if he passed, his wife to get that full benefit, the largest possible benefit. So it's a very individualized decision, as we've said over and over again today, and I think that's how we should look at it.
Yeah, and so there's 5 factors that all are interrelated, that play into your ability to transition successfully into a confident retirement. All those words, nothing is scripted, but those all are intentional. I want you to have a confident retirement. We want your retirement to be successful. You've got to look at those 5 factors, and your retirement income sources is one. Now, this shouldn't just be a one and done. Play different scenarios. Well, what if I draw right away? What if I wait 2 years? What if I wait 1 year? What if I delay much longer? And then if you're doing that 5-factor analysis in the context of the 6 areas of your financial life, then you could say, well, delaying until January would open up these tax planning opportunities. Or we could live off of the cash we have saved up because we've saved up a little bit more, and that would help us with XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Everything that Ben's talking about, you need that 5-factor plan built within the 6 areas of your financial life, working with your CFP on that. So, Ben, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So we hope that helps you take your next wise step in your financial life. Social Security, this is one of the biggest financial decisions that you're going to make in your life. Don't go it alone. Work with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on our team. You can find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.